As the sun sets on Northern Illinois' time in the Mid-American, a new journey awaits on the horizon, where NIU will return to the Horizon League, becoming the conference's 12th member. Back in the days of their first run in the Horizon League, the Huskies would play in the hallowed halls of Chick Evans Fieldhouse. Eventually, the bell would toll on the Huskies' playing days in the Chick Evans Fieldhouse, as they would later move to the Convocation Center. The Convocation Center opened in 2002 as a 10,000-seat arena. Fans will receive a flattering greeting as they enter the Convocation Center, where a reminder of NIU's previous run in the Horizon League, then the MCC, the Midwestern Collegiate Conference, hangs in the rafters with NIU's last NCAA appearance in 1996. So before we dive into the off-the-court factors in NIU's move to the Horizon League, we'll take a detour through the Horizon League arenas that NIU fans might be visiting. The Huskies will be rekindling an early 90s mid-continent rivalry with the Green Bay Phoenix. The Huskies, led by head coach Jim Molinari, won the mid-continent in 1991 by one game over their rival Green Bay, but Green Bay under head coach Dick Bennett and star player Tony Bennett avenged NIU in the 1991 Mid-Continent Championship game at Brown County Arena, but NIU would receive an at-large berth to the NCAA tournament. Husky fans will enjoy a short, fun road trip to Milwaukee, where MKE plays in the old Mecca Arena, the former longtime home of the Milwaukee Bucks, with plenty of nearby bars like the Mecca Sports Bar. MKE went to the Sweet 16 in 2005 under head coach Bruce Pearl before falling to Illinois at the Rosemont Horizon. They followed that up in 2006 under head coach Rob Jeter by advancing to the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament. In 2011, Milwaukee was actually the one seed in the Horizon League, ahead of defending national runner-up Butler, and Milwaukee would host Butler in the Horizon League championship game at a sold-out Mecca Arena in front of over 10,000 people after Milwaukee swept Butler in the regular season. Moving down to the state of Indiana, another road trip will be to the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, home of the Fort Wayne Mastodons. The Allen County War Memorial Coliseum has an ancient history, hosting an NBA All-Star game in the 50s and two NBA Finals in the 50s for the Fort Wayne Pistons. The Allen County War Memorial Coliseum is where Fort Wayne knocked off number 3, Indiana. One of the nicest mid-major arenas in the country would be right across the Ohio River from Cincinnati in Highland Heights, Kentucky, Truist Arena, home of the Northern Kentucky Norse. It opened in 2008. Located in the Dayton area is the Nutter Center, home of the Wright State Raiders, the remarkably consistent program who is very well supported. Here's a crowd of over 9,600 people back in November in a game versus Air Force. Moving up to the state of Michigan in the Detroit suburbs is a classic in the arena, home of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, who went to the round of 32 of the NCAA tournament last year, headed by 41-year head coach Greg Kampe. In the city of Detroit is Callahan Hall, home of the University of Detroit Titans. Callahan Hall has an ancient history, having opened in 1952, and is the second Horizon League arena to be the former home of the NBA's Pistons. Detroit basketball made the Sweet 16 in 1977 under head coach Dick Vitale, and advanced to the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament in 98 and 99. In Cleveland, you have the Wolstein Center, home of the Cleveland State Vikings. The Wolstein Center opened in 1991, 5 years in the aftermath of the Vikings' run to the Sweet 16 in 1986. The Youngstown State Penguins play at the Beagley Center, which opened in 1972 and was just renovated. 12 miles from Pittsburgh, Robert Morris opened the $50 million UPMC Event Center in 2019, not long after they took down Kentucky in their old gym in the NIT. The Horizon League semifinals and championship game are held at the Coliseum in Indianapolis, which opened in 1939 as part of FDR's New Deal. It's the former home of the Indiana Pacers and the former home of the IU Indy Jaguars, who have moved back to the jungle on campus awaiting a new arena. Now onto the off-court factors of NIU's move to the Horizon League. Let's start with athletic budgets. We're going to isolate the football budget. Top 3 rows are Department of Education database. Bottom 3 rows are Knight Commission database. And once you isolate that football budget, NIU's athletic budget would come out on top of the Horizon League in both databases. Of course, that comes with the caveat that these athletic budgets can be influenced by the volume of sports sponsored, but regardless, NIU's athletic budget after you isolate football is still going to come out around the top of the Horizon League. Moving to men's basketball budgets is a bit of a different story. NIU would rank last in the Horizon League at 338th in Division I. Milwaukee would be on top of the Horizon League at 130th in Division I. Now, presumably, NIU would take their travel cost savings of moving non-football sports to the Horizon League, and then maybe a portion of their extra revenue from the Mount West football, and reinvest some of that into men's basketball. If they were to reinvest $750,000 into their men's basketball budget, that would pull them even with Green Bay and Youngstown, and have more men's basketball budget parity with the rest of the Horizon League. Looking at 10-year KenPom, these are the previous 10 seasons, not the current season, where NIU is around 350 in net. NIU would actually rank 7th in the Horizon League in 10-year KenPom at 245th. The top 3 in the Horizon League would be Wright State, Northern Kentucky, and Oakland at 140th, 163rd, and 166th respectively. One reason NIU might be attractive to Horizon League presidents is the incoming enrollment cliff. From 2025 to 2029, there is projected to be a 15% decline in the number of 18-year-old college-going students. And the state of Illinois ranks second in the number of college-going students that each state exports out of state. In fact, the state of Illinois exports over 7% of U.S. out-of-state college students. And the overwhelming majority of that 7% is from the Chicagoland area. Now, of course, DeKalb is on the far western edge of the Chicago MSA. It was 1992 when the Federal Office of Budget and Management decided to add DeKalb County to the Chicago MSA due to the high number of DeKalb County residents commuting to the Chicagoland area for work. DeKalb is about 65 miles west of Chicago and about 40 miles west of Naperville. But the hope here for Horizon League presidents is that DeKalb is close enough to those far western Chicago suburbs that they could tap into the far western Chicago suburbs a bit for student recruiting, men's basketball recruiting, and re-engaging with alumni. If we look at the first-year student demographics of individual Horizon League schools using the Migration 2022 database by John Beckenstedt, Illinois was a top 3 out-of-state importer for students for 7 Horizon League schools. Illinois was number 1 for Green Bay, Milwaukee, and IU Indy, and number 2 for Fort Wayne, Detroit, and Wright State. Another reason NIU might be attractive to Horizon League presidents is the idea of reconnecting and re-engaging with alumni in the Chicagoland area. Of course, once again, DeKalb's about 40 miles west of Naperville, in the hopes that those alumni might become donators or maybe even send their kids to their school. And using the Wall Street Journal's Where Graduates Move After College database, the Chicago MSA was 10th for Youngstown State, 1.0%, 4th for Cleveland State, 1.4%, 4th for Wright State, 1.5%, 2nd for Detroit, 2.5%, 2nd for Oakland, 1.6%, 2nd for Fort Wayne, 2.3%, 2nd for IU Indy, 2.8%, 2nd for Milwaukee, 5.5%, and 2nd for Green Bay, 3.0%. So in all, the Chicago MSA was top 4 for 8 Horizon League schools in alumni distribution, and it was number 2 for 6 of them: Green Bay, Milwaukee, IU Indy, Fort Wayne, Oakland, and Detroit. And you have some big percentages like 5.5% for Milwaukee, 3% for Green Bay, 2.8% for IU Indy, 2.3% for Fort Wayne, 2.5% for Detroit. Now moving on to men's basketball recruiting, you can see that the Chicago area is one of the biggest producers of Division I talent. The city of Chicago itself is a top 3 producer of D1 players, albeit DeKalb is 65 miles west of Chicago. However, that bleeds into the suburbs. If you zoom in on this interactive map on NCAA.com, you'll find that the Chicago West suburbs are a good producer of Division I talent, and DeKalb might be close enough to the Napervilles of the world that schools are hoping that they can use games at NIU as a vehicle to connect with some of these recruits in the West Chicago suburbs. Now, if we flip everything from looking at the Horizon League perspective to looking at the NIU perspective, and we look into the NIU's first year student demographics, the Horizon League has 2 schools in Wisconsin and 2 schools in Indiana, and Wisconsin and Indiana represent the top 2 states for out-of-state students at NIU. Wisconsin was 1.2%, Indiana 0.6%. And this part is not related to the Horizon League, but something I found interesting. If you look at NIU's alumni distribution in the Wall Street Journal database, their top 2 alumni gatherings outside of Chicago were actually not in the Midwest. They were out west, and NIU football is moving to the Mount West. Comparing the MAC and Horizon League in net rankings over the past 4 years, the MAC beat out the Horizon League in 2022 and 2023, and now that's flipped where the Horizon League has beat out the MAC in 2024 and 2025. So in the past 4 years, the MAC and Horizon League have split the head-to-head 2 apiece in net rankings. Looking at NIU's travel in the Horizon League, the top row would be bus trips. The bottom row is if they were to theoretically take flights. And looking at bus trips, you have 9 of 11 Horizon League schools that are within a 6.5-hour bus trip, and 8 of 11 within 5 hours and 45 minutes. You have Milwaukee at 2 hours, 4 schools within 4 hours. Now in the bottom row, you have what the travel itinerary would be if they were to fly to each Horizon League location. You have about a 75-minute bus ride to O'Hare, and then you would have a flight between 1 hour and 1 hour 45 minutes to each Horizon League location. And then the bus ride after arriving at that airport. All these Horizon League schools are near the airport you would be flying to. The only exception would be Youngstown, which is about a 75-minute bus ride from the Pittsburgh airport. But the airport accessibility of the Horizon League makes for a very easy travel. We'll see if the Horizon League installs travel partners now that they're up to 12 schools. 4 pairings are pretty obvious: Oakland, Detroit, Youngstown, Robert Morris, Wright State, Northern Kentucky, Green Bay, Milwaukee. They could pair up IU, Indy, and Fort Wayne, who are 2 hours apart, and then NIU and Cleveland State would be a flight between Cleveland and O'Hare. They could also pair up NIU with Fort Wayne, which would be a 4-hour bus ride, and then there would be a flight between Indy and Cleveland. Or if they want to eliminate travel partners having a flight between them entirely, they could pair up Cleveland State and Fort Wayne, which would be about 3.5-hour bus ride, and then NIU and IU Indy, which would be about a 4-hour bus ride. A great feature of the Horizon League for NIU is how many of these schools are located to an airport that has several direct flights to O'Hare, and that's even before factoring in Midway. You have Green Bay, 8 direct flights daily to O'Hare, IU Indy, 11 to 12 direct flights, Fort Wayne has 7 direct flights daily, Detroit has 12 to 14 direct flights daily, Dayton, where Wright State is, 7 direct flights daily, Northern Kentucky, right by Cincinnati, 8 to 10 direct flights daily, and then Pittsburgh has 6 to 8 direct flights daily. So if we look at how NIU benefits the Horizon League, one way would be through student recruitment. Illinois is the number 2 exporter of out-of-state college students, exporting 7% of the nation's out-of-state students. And Illinois is number 1 for out-of-state students at 3 Horizon League schools, and number 2 for an additional 3 Horizon League schools. Another benefit is alumni distribution. The Chicago metro area was 2nd in alumni distribution for 6 Horizon League schools, and 4th for an additional 2 Horizon schools. Then men's basketball recruitment. Chicago is a top 3 producer of Division I men's basketball talent, and DeKalb is 65 miles west of Chicago, but the western suburbs produce many Division I players. And finally, you have airport accessibility. O'Hare offers 6 to 14 direct flights daily to every Horizon League location except Youngstown, and that's before factoring in Midway, and NIU is a 75-minute bus ride from O'Hare. On the other side of the coin, how the Horizon League benefits NIU, there's student recruitment. Wisconsin and Indiana are NIU's top 2 states for out-of-state students, and the Horizon League has 2 schools in each state. One in the main population center of each state, Milwaukee and Indy, and one in a secondary population center for both states, Green Bay and Fort Wayne. Then there's the travel cost savings. 8 of 11 Horizon League schools are within a 6-hour bus ride, and 4 are within a 4-hour bus ride. You have the airport accessibility if NIU chooses to fly out of O'Hare. O'Hare offers 6 to 14 direct flights daily to every Horizon League location except Youngstown, which is only a 75-minute bus ride from Pittsburgh. And then there's no drop-off in men's basketball. The MAC averaged 21.3 in net rankings over the past 4 years. The Horizon League was 21.5. NIU men's basketball started off in the Little 19, otherwise known as the Illinois Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. It later became the Interstate Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. It would move to the Conference of Midwestern Universities in 1970. In 1975, NIU men's basketball would join the MAC. In 1990, NIU men's basketball would join the Mid-Continent Conference. In 1994, NIU men's basketball would move to the Midwestern Collegiate Conference, the MCC, which is today the Horizon League. And in 1997, NIU men's basketball would move back to the MAC. And now in 2026, NIU men's basketball will move back to the Horizon League. NIU's first conference in men's basketball would be the Little 19 over 100 years ago. The Little 19 would have familiar names like Eastern Illinois, Western Illinois, Illinois State, Bradley, the Southern Illinois Salukis down in Little Egypt. It would even have schools who no longer exist like Shirtleff or St. Viator, even schools that relocated to another state entirely like Carthage. You also had the Eureka Red Devils where Ronald Reagan played football. Around 1950, the conference would become the Interstate Intercollegiate Athletic Conference after Eastern Michigan and Central Michigan joined. And NIU would remain in the Interstate through 1966. They would become independent for about 4 years and join the Conference of Midwestern Universities in 1970 with Ball State, Indiana State, ISU, and Southern. And then NIU basketball would become independent again in 72. And in 75, they would join the MAC. And they would stay in the MAC for 11 years through 1986 when NIU basketball would become independent again. And in 1990, NIU would join the Mid-Continent Conference where their main rival was Green Bay. In 94, NIU was part of a cluster of schools moving to the Midwestern Collegiate Conference, the MCC, which is today the Horizon League. And NIU would rejoin the MAC in 97. NIU would be in the MAC for 29 years until 2026, when NIU will once again rejoin the Horizon League.